Hi, I'm Jen, and you're listening to the Shadow Sanctuary, where I dig into the history of haunted locations to try and find a correlation between historical fact and paranormal experience. Is there a reason for the haunting? Why does energy stay? Keep listening to find out more. Welcome to the Shadow Sanctuary. I'm your host, Jen, and I'm sure if you're into hauntings and true crime, you've heard about the Villisca axe murders. Tonight, I'm going to tell you all about it and the house that it happened in. So, let's get into it. Villisca began as a small settlement called the Forks. The first plat of town was laid out in 1858 by D.N. Smith of Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. He named the town Villisca, which means pretty place or pleasant view. The town flourished, and by the early 1900s, several hotels, restaurants, stores, theaters, and manufacturers complemented an economy based largely on agriculture. On June 9th, 1912, Mary Catherine Moore invited Ina May and Lena Gertrude Stillinger to spend the night at the Moore residence in Villisca. That evening, the visiting girls and the Moore family, which consisted of Josiah and Sarah Moore and their children, Herman, Mary, Arthur, and Paul, attended a program at the Presbyterian Church, which ended at 9:30 p.m. At 7 a.m. the next day, June 10th, 1912, Mary Peckham, the Moore's neighbor, became concerned after she noticed that the family had not come out to do their morning chores. Peckham knocked on the door and nobody answered. She then tried to open the door but discovered it locked. Peckham called Ross Moore, Josiah's brother. Like Peckham, Ross Moore received no response when he knocked on the door and shouted. Ross would then unlock the front door with his copy of the house key. While Peckham stood on the porch, Ross Moore went into the parlor and opened the guest bedroom door, where he found Ina and Lena Stillinger's bodies on the bed. He immediately told Peckham to call Henry Horton, Villisca's primary peace officer, who arrived shortly after. Horton's search of the house revealed that the entire Moore family and the two Stillinger girl guests had been bludgeoned to death. The murder weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah, that was found in the guest room where the Stillinger sisters were found. Doctors concluded that the murders had taken place between midnight and 5 a.m. Investigators believe that all of the victims except for Lena Stillinger had been asleep when the attack took place. In another bizarre twist, every mirror in the house was covered with blankets, clothing, or any means of covering. After the initial search of the house, people were led into the house to view the scene. Townsfolk rushed the home and completely contaminated the crime scene. Over time, many possible suspects emerged, one being Reverend George Kelly, whose first trial for the murder ended in a hung jury, and the second trial ended in acquittal. The other suspects in the investigation were also exonerated. Nobody was ever charged for the crime. Today, the house is a tourist destination. The house was lived in as a private residence for years after the murder, although nobody ever stayed for long. Visitors to the house claim to hear disembodied footsteps, they witness objects and furniture moving, and they hear voices and see apparitions and shadows and feel negative energy and bad vibes. The house has been featured on basically every paranormal show. The Villisca Axe Murder House is located at 508 East 2nd Street, Villisca, Iowa. They offer regular daylight house tours, public and private, Tuesdays through Sundays, 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. The cost is $10 for adults and $5 for children and seniors. They also offer GPS audio guided and private guided tours of the Villisca Cemetery. You can also book a room to stay in overnight for $200, or you can book the entire house for an overnight paranormal stay for $600. If you pay them a visit, let them know the Shadow Sanctuary podcast sent you. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check us out on Facebook for more information on upcoming episodes. As always, don't let the eerie vibes fade too quickly. Stay haunted, my friends.